Welcome to Laravel 6 Advanced Course Beyond the Basics. So in this course, we're exploring Laravel in a deeper level. Today, we're going to be talking about the service container. So what I have here is the documentation for service container. Service container is one of those imperative things that you understand whenever you're working with Laravel. In order for you to take your projects to the next level, you need to start using the service container. The service container is simply a service that Laravel provides for you that allows you to tell Laravel how an object or class needs to be constructed, and then Laravel can figure it out from there. Now, this is a very, very powerful concept, but it is a little bit difficult to explain. I do feel like it's a lot easier to see it in action than it is to try to explain it. But as a side note, the Laravel service container is simply just a way for managing your class dependencies. Every class is going to have some sort of dependency with it, and you can inject them automatically. We've done a little bit of this using route model binding, and you may be familiar with that. That is one of those things. However, today we're going to be exploring an example from scratch and sort of showing you how it works. So I have here a brand new fresh installation of Laravel 6, and we're going to start from the very, very beginning. So here's what I want to do. I want to create a controller, and in my controller, I want to inject a specific class. Now, as a first run, we're going to do it the regular way. And then we're going to slowly refactor into more and more advanced example. So here we go. Let's go ahead and create that controller now. So we'll say PHP artisan make controller, and we'll simply call it pay order controller. The example we're going to be working with today involves an order and a payment gateway. A typical setup for whenever somebody places an order through your site and you want to charge their credit card or their bank. So here we go. Let's pull open that pay order controller. And in here, we'll simply have a store method. So in my store method, I will actually have a payment gateway, which I don't have yet. So let's create that now. Inside the apps controller, I'm going to create a directory. And this directory is going to be called billing. And inside of billing, we'll have a new PHP class, which will be called payment gateway. As a side note, typically you create a payment gateway. That way you can have several different payment systems in one application, but you always call your payment gateway. So this payment gateway will simply have a method which will be charge. Charge will accept an amount, and by the way, this amount will always be in cents. So $25 would be 2,500 cents. And simply in here, charge the bank. And all I want to return for now is just an array of information. This is all made up, but it gives you a real world example of how this would work. So for amount, of course, we will have amount. And then maybe let's have a confirmation number. And this will simply just be str, that's Illuminate Support str, random. Notice that str did get imported up here at the top. All right, so now we have an amount and a confirmation number. So in my payments controller, I'll new up this payment gateway like this. So new payment gateway, and that's it. So notice that payment gateway did get imported up here at the top. So now if I die and dump payment gateway, now I don't have any route right now into this. So let's go ahead and just add one now. And we'll simply call this one route. It's going to be a get route. This is all made up. Remember, we're just demonstrating the concept. So this will hit the pay order controller at store. So in my browser, let me go ahead and visit /pay. So sure enough, I have my payment gateway. So of course, let's go ahead and hit that charge method on it. And let's go ahead and charge. So 2,500 cents. And sure enough, we get back our confirmation. Pretty cool. But what if I told you this? What if I could get rid of this line altogether? So we can ask Laravel to go ahead and inject this for us. Laravel is going to use the reflection class. And the basics behind reflection is that if you asked somebody to describe themselves, they wouldn't be able to unless they had a mirror or a reflection of themselves. If they were looking at themselves, they could tell you all about themselves. But if they don't have a reflection, then they don't know what they look like. So same thing for objects. It takes an object and then it puts a mirror in front of it so that it can reflect on itself, and conceptually speaking, it can tell you a lot about itself. So using the reflection class, in here, we can simply type hint, quote unquote, payment gateway. Let's go ahead and give it a variable of payment gateway. And now I can actually get rid of this line altogether. If we hit refresh, notice we still get that. So Laravel is injecting payment gateway for us automatically. All we need to do is ask for it. So we're saying this store method requires a payment gateway. And then go ahead and give it a name of payment gateway. That way we can use it. So that's pretty cool. So this in itself is already pretty powerful. However, let me go back to this example and I will actually delete our injection there. What if I needed to pass something into it? So let's make a modification. Let's go back to the payment gateway and let's pretend that now I need to be able to specify the currency. So let's add a constructor here and we'll say, in the constructor, you're going to receive currency. So let's go ahead and initialize that field. And so we have a private currency variable. Now what happens? Well, you see now that it requires that parameter. So we can pass in US dollars. And then let's actually modify this as well. That way we know what our currency is going to be. We can access that with this currency. And now if we hit refresh, now of course we get our currency. But as you can imagine, this will no longer work. I'm going to actually make it fail so you see what happens. Let's go ahead and get rid of this line. And there is no way for me to actually add that currency. And of course, if I run this, I get an error. I get a binding resolution exception, meaning I was unable to give you the dependency that you were asking for. And mostly to do with the fact, again, that it requires that currency parameter. And actually tells you right here. It says the currency parameter, it is required. And you didn't pass me one, so I can't make that class for you. So how do we fix that? Well, for that, we bring in a service provider. So if we go into app providers, there's an app service provider. In the app service provider is where your application bootstraps itself of anything that it needs. So we can say the following. We can say in the register method, we'll say this, and you have access to app. An app is basically your entire app. So in my app, I want to bind the following thing. So whenever anyone asks for a payment gateway, we do need to import that up here at the top. So whenever anyone asks for a payment gateway, this is how you construct it. And the way that you do it is just passing a callback. So we'll pass in a function, and the function actually accepts your entire app. And so inside of here, we construct our payment gateway. So let's go ahead and return a brand new payment gateway, but this time let's pass in the currency as US dollars. And now if we come back here and hit refresh, we're back to working. But now the US dollars is coming from our app service provider. If I change this to euros, for example, yep, that changes. So it doesn't matter what I put in here. Now Laravel knows how to construct this payment gateway. Now, one important thing to notice here is, why is this important? Why would anybody care about this? Well, mostly to do with the fact that if you ever needed to use this payment gateway again, say in a different controller, your controllers are no longer in charge of knowing how to create a payment gateway. Furthermore, if tomorrow you changed payment gateways and now you had a totally different way of charging a payment, the controller doesn't need to change. Only your payment gateway needs to change. It wouldn't make sense for you to have to change your payment gateway and your controller to make a payment change, because the controller should not know that much about how your payment is actually processed. That's not the controller's job. That's the payment gateway's job. And again, we are covering this specific example, but this entices your entire application. You always need to try to encapsulate the logic so that it doesn't need to change all these different files just because you need to make one small change in one part of it. So leaking information such as how to construct a payment gateway is not the controller's fault. Because imagine you had 50 controllers that required this payment gateway. To make that quick change from one currency to another, it would literally require you to change 50 files. That never makes any sense. So let's keep going with this example and let's take it to the next level. Imagine now that I want to be able to apply a discount. This is something typical of a payment gateway. We need to go ahead and apply a discount into our payment gateway. So now to create this discount, we're going to need to actually be able to have an order. So what will create a whole new concept to our application, which is going to be orders. So we'll add a new directory under app, and inside of here, let's add a PHP class for order details. And order details is going to be a fairly simple class. Let me go ahead and clean it up. And what we're going to have is a constructor. And in my constructor, I will need that payment gateway again. And so notice that it is being imported up here at the top. And so all I'll do is actually just initialize that as a private field. And we'll get rid of those comments. And so we'll have this special method, which will return all of the order details. So we'll call that all. And inside of here, this is where I'm going to actually set the discount. So I'll say this payment gateway set discount. This doesn't exist, of course, but in this particular order, it's going to be $5 off. And that'll return an array with what would be the order details. So we'll say name is Victor, and we'll say maybe the address is going to be 123 Coders Tape Street. That's good enough. Of course, set discount doesn't exist in my payment gateway. So let's add a new public function here for set discount. We'll call this amount. And in here, we're actually going to need a new variable. So we'll call it discount. And initially, this discount will be equal to 0. And then if set discount actually gets called, then we're going to override discount and just set it equal to whatever the amount that got passed in as a discount, this one. Okay, so simple enough. But now in my controller, I don't have an order, right? I'm charging this amount out of here, but this amount is really not correct because it's just an arbitrary amount. It's not coming from anywhere. So what we can actually do is we can ask Laravel for as many injections as we want. We don't have to do just one. So we could say, all right, so I also need order details. We'll save that to order details. And so now we are asking for an order details, which do notice that it is being imported up here at the top. And we're also asking for a payment gateway. So pretty cool. So now my order comes from order details, all. Remember, that's that method that we created right here, this all method. And when we call this all method, it actually sets the discount on the payment gateway. So that would be the way that our discount actually gets set. So now when we charge our amount, we're going to have to make a little bit of a change here in my payment gateway. We need to actually account for that discount in my charge method. So I can say, okay, so the amount that we're going to charge is amount minus this discount. And then finally, let's go ahead and add a whole new section here so that we know what the discount actually was for this particular payment. So we'll output that as discount. Okay, so let's give this a go and let's see what actually happens. I hit refresh and you notice that my discount is 0. And you may be wondering why that is. I mean, we actually set a discount of $5, but it's not showing up. And of course, this has to do with the fact that whenever you bind into the container, every time that the class actually gets asked for, you're returned a brand new object. Laravel will actually invoke this function every single time a new payment gateway gets called. So what is going to happen is in my order details, this payment gateway that we're receiving here is a fresh one. And then again, inside my pay orders controller, this payment gateway is a fresh one. They don't know anything about each other. Now, typically, payment gateways will only be one instance of it, and you will use that instance in your entire request. So to do that, instead of binding into the container, we can use something called a singleton. And a singleton is a way of telling Laravel that there's only ever going to be one of these payment gateways. So what happens is the first time that somebody requests a payment gateway, Laravel invokes this callback. But then every subsequent time after that, it just simply returns whatever the first one actually passed back. So in essence, you get the exact same object. So with that small change into a singleton, let's go back to Chrome and notice how it says discount 0. I'll hit refresh and sure enough, now our discount is showing up. And then notice that the amount that we got charged is actually $2,000, not $2,500. So it went down to $20 because of the $5 discount. So that's how a singleton would work. So what is happening, again, just to run through the flow one more time, is whenever my order details gets created, it requests a payment gateway. Laravel is going to look inside the container to find a payment gateway. So it finds this payment gateway right here, and we have instructed this particular callback to tell Laravel how to actually make up a payment gateway. So it will actually invoke this function and save the results. Then it will pass them into my order details. So then it gets to the second parameter where we actually need a payment gateway. So it goes back into the container and says, wait a minute, I've already got one of those. So here it is. So it doesn't run this again. It just simply returns the results of the first time that this was invoked. And then it passes it in as a second argument. So whatever we have here is the exact same payment gateway that we had inside my order details. So now let's take it even another step further. What if I had a bank payment and maybe a credit card processing company? Two different things. How would I be able to dynamically choose which one it is that I want to use for this particular order? So for that, let's turn this payment gateway into my bank payment gateway. Let me go ahead and rename this payment gateway class to bank payment gateway. So I'll refactor that. And all we'll do there is simply just rename it, because what I want to do is I want to extract an interface. PHP Storm makes this very easy to do, but again, you could do it manually. So we're going to extract an interface that will have a charge and a set discount. So let's give it a name of just simply Payment Gateway Contract. Okay, so this is what the interface looks like. An interface is just simply a roadmap of how a class needs to be constructed. So the way that this works is in my bank payment gateway, we are now implementing Payment Gateway Contract. So my Payment Gateway Contract is a way of us adhering to the same API from class to class. So I can blindly call this charge method because I know that as long as it implements the payment contract, it is required for you to have one of those methods. And the other method that is required is, of course, the set discount method. So now here's one thing that I can do. So instead of requesting a bank payment gateway, I just want to request a payment gateway. At this point, the controller doesn't care if the user used a credit card or if the user used a bank. So let's just request a payment gateway contract. Not a particular implementation of the payment gateway, but just the contract in general. Again, I don't care what type of credit card or bank my user is using. But now, of course, if we go back to Chrome, we hit refresh, well, we have a problem. And the first thing is that you cannot actually generate an interface. An interface is not something that you can new up. And so, of course, we need a concrete implementation of this interface. So the way that we would do that in Laravel is in my app service provider. So we're still going to have a Singleton, but we're not requesting the bank payment gateway. We're going to be requesting the payment gateway contract. So whenever anyone wants a payment gateway contract, here's the concrete implementation of it. So this is what you're actually going to use. And so now if we come back here and hit refresh, now we get an error, but this one is actually coming out of something else. Because if you remember, we actually used this payment gateway in two places. So we need to change it in the order details, because notice that here we're still using a bank payment gateway. So let me go ahead and change this over to payment gateway contract instead. And we can clean up this use statement and just have the one. And now we hit refresh, we're back to working. Notice the discount is working and everything is working. So you may be wondering, how is this any better? I don't understand how this is any better than what we had before. The exception now that we're requesting this contract. Well, check this out. Let's create another payment gateway. I will go ahead and save this one, and this one is going to be called Credit Payment Gateway. So this is going to be representing my credit card processing. So Credit Payment Gateway will still implement the same contract. So it's going to be adhere to the same rules as my bank payment gateway. So now this one will say the following. Credit cards, they have a fee. So maybe this fee needs to be charged whenever a credit card is processed. So let's create this new idea here of a fee. We'll just call it fees. And in this particular one, the fee is going to be 3%. So we'll say, okay, so the fee is amount times 0.03. So that will give me the fee associated with each charge. So the amount that we're going to charge is going to be the amount minus the discount, but then 3% off of the original amount. So what I'll actually do is, why don't we put this in a variable? So we'll say, okay, so my fees are going to be that amount. And then in here, we could just simply use fees. And so the charge amount is amount minus discount plus any fees that got associated with this charge. So now let's switch over from the bank payment over to the credit payment. So back in my app service provider, whenever anyone requests a payment contract, notice how easy it's going to be to change from a bank to a credit card. All I need to do here is, I will actually comment this line out, but all I would need to do is return a new credit payment gateway. And it's still going to be US dollars. So now if we go back here and hit refresh, notice that now we are charging the fee. And just like that, we changed from one payment gateway to another payment gateway. And we didn't change the order details, and we didn't change our controller. We're simply requesting a contract. We don't care if it's a bank or if it's a credit card. That's for somebody else to worry about. So, of course, you can dynamically choose which one you're going to use. So for a very simple example, let's do the following. Let's say, okay, if the request has a key of credit, that means they want to use a credit card. So in that case, this is the payment gateway that we're going to use. Otherwise, we're going to use our bank payment gateway. Now this, of course, could be calculated in any way, shape, or form. Of course, one of the ways would be if the user selected credit or bank from your checkout process. In that case, that is how we would determine if it's a credit card or if it's a bank payment gateway. So let me go ahead and hit refresh on this one, and we are back to our bank because notice that it has no fee. But now, if I said, okay, let's say credit, we can set this basically equal to anything. We'll just set it equal to true. Now we're running this as a credit charge instead. So notice how both of those implementations work, and all it does is just checking this right here. Then again, we could check the order, we could check just about anything we want to make that switch from one to another. So we can make that check anywhere in our application, and then all we need to do is make sure that we use the correct payment gateway when it comes time to actually perform the charge. So that's going to wrap it up for this lesson. This is Laravel 6 Advanced and talking about the service container. If you've enjoyed this lesson, of course, go ahead and subscribe and share it throughout all your social media networks. That way we can continue to grow the Coders Tape channel. My name is Victor. Thank you for watching.